Hello kids, hope you're all doing fine. Welcome back. So today we'll be seeing a new chapter in ABS, chapter number 16, properties of water. So before going to the properties, let's see the state or the forms of water. So, or the states in which the water is found. So when you take the forms of water, we see that they are in three forms, that is solid, liquid and gas. So when you take solid, the example is ice. When the water is frozen, then it becomes ice. Okay. Then you have liquid that you see mostly in all water bodies, rivers, lakes, sea, ocean, or in the well water. You find water in liquid media. Then it is gas. Gas when you boil water and when the gas come out or the steam come out, that the water is in a gaseous form. When the water is boiled and the vapor come out, that vapor is in the gaseous form of water. Okay. So these are the three forms of water. They are solid, liquid and gas. Right. Now coming to the properties of water. So when you take the properties of water, it is colorless, it is also tasteless, then they don't have any fixed shape and they can easily flow from one container to the other. So when you take colorless, you can see the water, they don't have any specific color. So only when you add some juice or maybe you add some color, it takes the color of that particular substance. Otherwise water is colorless and they don't have any specific taste also. If you add a sugar, then it will be sweet. If you add salt, it will be salty. So it is not having any particular taste also. Then they don't have any fixed size or shape. So whatever container you store water, they take the shape and size of that particular container. Okay. Then when you see water or the liquid water, yes. So when you take the water, it can flow from one container to the other. That is how you can pour the water from one glass to the other, or from a glass or a jug to a spoon. So, and similarly water and the water, it usually flow from a higher level to the lower level, not from the lower to the higher. Usually they flow from the higher level to the lower level. So here the picture of the mountain where you see a waterfall. So from the top of the mountain the water flows down, okay, into the river. So these are the properties of water. Water, they are colorless, tasteless, they don't have any fixed size or shape. They take the shape of the container. Then they can also easily flow from one surface to the other, or from the higher level to the lower level. You can take the water from lower level to higher level, but for that you have to use an electric pump. So at home, from the underground tank, you just pull the water up to the overhead tank using an electric motor, isn't it? So these are the properties of water. Then when you this water or the liquid means water, milk, oil, all this come under liquid. And to measure it, we measure by volume. So in terms of liters or milliliters. So water, it is measured by volume, either in liters or in milliliters. So here you have the measuring jars. Mostly measuring jars are used where the measurements in the jar, the measurements are written. So if you want to have the milliliter, you will have a small measuring jar. If you want a larger quantity of the liquid, then you use a bigger measuring jar. Then here in the third picture, I have shown some measuring small jars. There it is mostly used to measure milk. You will be finding this jars with the milkman. So for having half a liter milk or maybe 1 liter milk, accordingly they will use the measuring jars. Okay. So 1 liter, it is 1000 milliliter. So that is the conversion, how you convert 1 liter to milliliter. So 1 liter, it is 1000 milliliter. So for measuring smaller amount of liquid, you use milliliters, and when you measure a larger quantity of the liquid, we use liters. So milk and all we get in liters. And when you take medicines, we say 5 ml of medicine, you just take 5 ml of medicine or 10 ml of medicine, like you don't say it in liters. So when you measure smaller amount of liquid, you measure it in milliliters, and when you measure a larger quantity of liquid, you measure it in liters, right? So the next one is what floats, sink or mixes. Okay, so when you take the object that floats in water, then that object will have a lesser density than water. Only when the object have a lesser density than water, then it floats in water. For example, some plastic ball, or here I have shown you a log of wood, that is the dried one. So we find them floating in water. That is because the density is relatively low when compared to that of water. And when you take a rock, a piece of rock, or maybe a clay ball and all, they sink in water because their density is much more than the density of water. Those things which are denser, they sink in water. Sink means they just go down, and the things which are less dense than water, then they float in water. So density is actually referred to how heavy the object is from its size. So how heavy the object is. So when the density is more, then it sink in water. If the density is lesser than water, then they float in water. So when you take the density of water, it is 1 kilogram per liter. So if it is more than 1 kilogram per liter, then that object, it is sink. If it is less than 1 kilogram per liter, then it floats in water. Okay. So now water, it is considered as an universal solvent. Why we say it is an universal solvent is because mostly many substances, they dissolve completely in water. Okay, they are soluble in water. For example, when you dissolve salt or sugar, when you dissolve it, you put a bit of salt in water and you stir it with a spoon, you find the salt completely dissolving in water. Similarly, sugar also, when you put it in the water and you stir it with a spoon, you find it completely dissolving in water. Okay, so the substance which dissolve in water, we call it as a solute. That is the sugar or the salt, whatever substance you are dissolving in water, you are putting it into the water, we call it as a solute. And the water in which the substance is being or the liquid in which the substance is being dissolved is called the solvent. Okay, so that is, in a solution you have a solute and a solvent. Solute is the substance which you are dissolving, and the solvent is the liquid in which the substance is dissolved. So the solvent and solute together, it forms the solution, right? And this water is called an universal solvent because mainly many substances, they dissolve completely in water. Okay, then there are certain substances which don't get dissolved in water, and we call it as insoluble substance. That is, it is not completely dissolved in water. We call it as insoluble substance. Example, sand or small pieces of rocks. You put it in the water and stir it continuously, but you see still some the whole sand remains as such. They don't get dissolved in water. So such substances which don't dissolve in water or don't mix with water, we call it as insoluble. Okay. Then there are certain gases like oxygen and carbon dioxide. They mix with water or they are fully dissolving in water. And that is the reason how the fishes, they use the oxygen that is in the water for breathing. Okay, if the oxygen does not dissolve in water, then fishes, they don't get oxygen, because the fish or all aquatic animals that live in water, they take the oxygen that is mixed with the water. Then oil, it also does not mix, or oil does not mix completely in water. That is why if you pour some oil into the water, you will find oil just above the water. Okay, that is because oil has got a low density than water, so it remains on the top layer. Okay, so that is the main reason why nowadays people use paints which is oil based, so that it doesn't get washed during rainy season. And if you want to remove the paint from the brush, then we see them dipping it in a kerosene can. Okay, that is because kerosene, it dissolves the oil, but water cannot. If you are trying to wash the brush with water, then the paint remains stuck in the water, so it doesn't remove. And if you just put it in a kerosene and keep, slowly the paint washes off. That is because the oil, it is dissolving in kerosene, so it is removed from the brush. Okay, so hope you have understood this lesson. So with this, we are finishing off this lesson. This lesson is very short, so I'm finishing it off in one session. Just go through. If you have any doubt, you can ask me in the interactive session. Okay, bye. Thank you.
Teachers.